sat on my desk, its gold embossing gleaming under my office lights. Not my real office, the penthouse suite at Wilson Ventures, but the small consulting space I maintained to keep up appearances with my family. The dinner was tonight, and in exactly 2 hours, Bloomberg would announce my latest acquisition, a $80 million tech startup that would transform my company's digital portfolio. Not that my family knew I owned Wilson Ventures. To them, I was just Sophia Mitchell, the daughter who settled for running a small consulting business instead of joining the family law firm. My brother Andrew's text flashed on my phone. Don't forget 7 p.m. sharp. Try to look successful for once. Dad invited the senior partners. I smiled, adjusting my simple black dress, a custom Valentino without the obvious branding my family preferred. They had no idea that while they were building their prestigious law practice, I'd quietly built a venture capital empire worth over $500 million. The Mitchell family events were always exercises in status display, held at the most exclusive venues in Boston. Tonight, my parents had rented out the entire top floor of the Beacon Hill Club. As my driver pulled up to the entrance, I could see Andrew's new Tesla parked prominently by the door. Ms. Wilson, the driver said quietly, using my professional name, my mother's maiden name. Would you like me to wait? No need, James. But be ready for some interesting news alerts around 9. The club's marble foyer echoed with familiar voices, partners from my father's firm, family friends, and relatives all gathered to celebrate the Mitchell family's success. Or at least their version of success. Sophia. My mother's voice carried across the room, a hint of perpetual disappointment hidden beneath her warm tone. Darling, we weren't sure you'd make it. Still busy with your, what are you calling it now? Consulting practice. I accepted her air kiss, catching the scent of her signature perfume. Something like that, Mom. Well, she patted my arm consolingly, at least you're working. Though if you'd just taken the position at the firm. Mom, I cut her off gently, we've been through this. She sighed, adjusting her diamond necklace. I just worry about your future, dear. You're 35. It's time to think about stability. I thought about the stack of merger documents waiting on my real desk, the billions in assets under my management, the empire I'd built while they weren't watching. Andrew appeared, champagne in hand, his new Rolex catching the light. Little sister. Still playing entrepreneur. Hello, Andrew. I accepted the glass he offered. How's the firm? Expanding. He grinned. Dad's making me managing partner next month. Youngest in the firm's history. Congratulations. You know, he leaned in, cologne heavy in the air, that offer to join the firm still stands. Junior associate position. You'd have to work your way up, of course, but it's better than. He waved his hand vaguely. Whatever it is you're doing. I sipped my champagne, thinking of the news that would break in less than 2 hours. I'm happy where I am. Happy isn't the same as successful. My father's voice came from behind me. Though I suppose small business ownership has its charms. I turned to face him. Richard Mitchell, Boston's most prominent corporate lawyer, looked exactly as he always did, perfectly tailored suit, carefully styled gray hair, confidence bordering on arrogance. Hi, Dad. Happy anniversary. He nodded, studying my simple dress with barely concealed disappointment. You could have worn the Gucci I bought you for Christmas. This is more my style. Yes, he sighed. That's always been the problem, hasn't it? Your style never quite matched the Mitchell standard. The room was filling up with guests, law partners, judges, the elite of Boston's legal community. All here to celebrate my parents' marriage and, more importantly, the success of Mitchell and Associates. Richard, a senior partner, approached, crystal tumbler in hand. Quite a turnout. The whole legal community is here. My father beamed. William, have you met my daughter? The lawyer. William asked. No, my father's smile tightened slightly. That's Andrew. This is Sophia. She has a small consulting business. Ah. William's interest visibly dimmed. How nice. Speaking of business, heard anything about that Wilson Ventures deal? Word is they're announcing something big tonight. I hid my smile behind my glass. What deal is that? Some major tech acquisition. Sarah Wilson's been making waves in the venture capital world. Brilliant woman, very private. No one even knows what she looks like. My father shrugged. We handle some peripheral legal work for them. Small stuff. They use Goldman for the major deals. Actually, I used his firm for basic contracts precisely so they wouldn't look too closely at the CEO's identity. Another small deception in a life full of them. Speaking of deals, Andrew cut in, wait until you hear about the merger I just closed. Biggest in firm history. The conversation shifted, as it always did, to Andrew's achievements. I checked my phone 1 hour until the announcement. My mother clinked her glass, calling everyone to dinner. The Mitchell anniversary dinners were always elaborate affairs, but this year they'd outdone themselves. Crystal chandeliers, string quartet, tables groaning with expensive wines and gourmet food. Before we begin, my father stood, raising his glass. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. 40 years ago I married the love of my life, and together we built not just a family but a legacy. Applause rippled through the room. My mother beamed. And that legacy continues, he went on. Our son Andrew, soon to be the youngest managing partner in firm history. Following in my footsteps, building on the Mitchell name. More applause. Andrew stood, basking in the attention. And of course, my father's voice softened slightly, our daughter Sophia, who chose a different path. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken disappointment. A small business owner, he continued, trying to sound proud and failing. Which is admirable in its own way. I checked my phone again. 45 minutes. Really, Sophia, my mother whispered from beside me, you could at least pretend to be interested in your father's speech. Oh, I am, I assured her. I'm just waiting for something. Another client for your little consulting firm? Andrew smirked. Something like that. The dinner proceeded as these events always did. Partners discussed cases, judges shared war stories, everyone celebrated the mighty Mitchell legacy. I sat quietly watching the time tick down. You know, Andrew said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear, the firm's junior associate salary is probably triple what you make in a year, Sophia. Just saying. Probably, I agreed mildly. I just hate seeing you waste your potential, he continued. You could be part of something big, not just consulting. I checked my phone one last time. 5 minutes. Actually, I said quietly, I am part of something big. Very big. Your 3-person office in Cambridge? He laughed. That's not exactly Mitchell and Associates. No, I agreed. It's much, much bigger. My father overheard us. Sophia, please. Not everyone can handle the pressure of real business. There's no shame in staying small. I stood up slowly, smoothing my dress. Would you all excuse me for a moment? I need to make a call. Now? My mother frowned. During your father's anniversary dinner? Trust me, I smiled. You'll want me to take this call. As I walked toward the door, I heard Andrew's voice, just a small business owner trying to play with the big kids. I paused, turning back. You might want to turn on CNBC, brother dear. Something interesting is about to happen. The confusion on his face was just the beginning. The real show was about to start. I stood in the club's elegant hallway watching the seconds tick down on my phone. Right on schedule, breaking news alerts started flooding in. Wilson Ventures acquires TechFusion for $80 million. Sarah Wilson's latest acquisition shakes tech industry. Venture capital queen strikes again. Wilson Ventures expands digital portfolio. Inside the dining room I heard the first gasp. Someone had CNBC running on their phone. Breaking news, the anchor's voice carried through the open door. In a stunning move, venture capital powerhouse Wilson Ventures has acquired artificial intelligence startup TechFusion for $80 million. Sarah Wilson, the mysterious CEO who's built a $500 million empire, continues to reshape the tech investment landscape. I walked back into the room just as Andrew choked on his wine. My father stood frozen, his anniversary speech forgotten. On 3 different phones my face appeared on the screen, a professional headshot released with the announcement, captioned Sarah Wilson, CEO of Wilson Ventures. Sophia. My mother's voice was barely a whisper. What is this? I took my seat calmly, picking up my wine glass. This? Just another day at my small business. The room erupted in chaos. Law partners who'd dismissed me moments ago suddenly couldn't take their eyes off me. Judges who'd barely acknowledged my existence were now leaning forward, hanging on every movement. You're Sarah Wilson? William, the senior partner, stammered. But that's impossible. Wilson Ventures is worth $500 million, I finished for him. Give or take a few million. Mother's maiden name, by the way. Though none of you ever paid attention to that side of the family. Andrew's face had gone from red to white. All this time, while we thought you were just running a small consulting firm? I smiled. Yes, that was the point. Though if you'd ever actually visited my little office in Cambridge, you might have noticed it was just a front. My father found his voice. Why didn't you tell us? I looked at him steadily. Would you have believed me? When have you ever believed I could succeed at anything bigger than small business ownership? But he glanced at his phone where the news was still breaking. You're one of the most successful venture capitalists in the country. Yes, I agreed. And I did it without the Mitchell name. Without your connections. Without your approval. My mother's hand shook as she reached for her water glass. Darling, if we'd known. You'd have what? I asked quietly. Treated me differently? Respected me? Seen me as something more than the disappointment who wouldn't join the family firm. The string quartet had stopped playing. Every eye in the room was on our table. My father's carefully orchestrated anniversary dinner had become something else entirely. The firm, Andrew said suddenly. All those small contracts Wilson Ventures sends us. Were a convenience, I finished. A way to keep you just close enough not to look too closely. Though I must say your billing rates are rather high for basic contract work. William leaned forward. Sarah, I mean Sophia, we should discuss moving your major deals to Mitchell and Associates. Now that we know. No, I cut him off. I don't mix family with business. That was made very clear to me when I turned down the junior associate position. My father winced at the reminder. Sophia, surely we can. What? I raised an eyebrow. Start over? Pretend you didn't spend years dismissing everything I built? That an hour ago you weren't apologizing to your guests for my different path? The news alerts kept coming. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from journalists, investors, and suddenly interested family members. I silenced it without looking. I don't understand, my mother said. All these years living in that small apartment, driving that modest car. Because I don't need to show off my success, I replied. I don't need everyone to know how much money I have or what I've achieved. That's the difference between us, isn't it? You measure success by what others see. I measure it by what I build. Andrew stood up abruptly. I need a drink. Sit down, I said firmly. For once in your life, listen to your little sister. The one you thought needed your career advice an hour ago. He sank back into his chair, face flushed with embarrassment. Tomorrow, I continued, the markets will open and Wilson Ventures stock will rise again. Your law firm will get calls from clients asking about your connection to me. People will want to know how the Mitchells produced such a successful daughter. And what should we tell them? My father asked quietly. The truth, I smiled. That you had no idea. That while you were busy building your law firm and protecting the Mitchell name, your daughter built something bigger. Without your help, your connections, or your approval. I stood up, smoothing my simple dress. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a merger to finalize. Happy anniversary, Mom and Dad. The dinner was lovely. Wait, my mother called out. Please, can we talk about this? As a family. I turned back one last time. We are talking about it. For the first time in years, you're actually hearing me. Isn't it interesting what $500 million can do for a conversation? As I walked out, I heard Andrew mutter, Jesus Christ, my little sister is Sarah Wilson. My driver was waiting outside, a knowing smile on his face. Home, Ms. Wilson? No, I checked my phone, seeing 47 missed calls from family members. To the office. The real one. The next morning, I sat in my penthouse office at Wilson Ventures, watching the market reaction to the TechFusion acquisition. Our stock was up 15% in the first hour of trading. My assistant buzzed in. Your father's here. And your brother. And 3 senior partners from Mitchell and Associates. I smiled, straightening the nameplate on my desk. Sarah Wilson. Tell them I'm in a meeting. They can make an appointment like everyone else. And your mother? She's called 6 times. Tell her I'm busy. Running a small business takes a lot of work, you know. I turned to the window, looking out over the city I'd conquered while they weren't watching. My phone buzzed with a text from Andrew. "Can we talk? Please?" I had no idea. I typed back. Neither did anyone else. That was the point. Sometimes success isn't about proving others wrong. Sometimes it's about succeeding so quietly, so completely that when they finally realize the truth, it's already too late to pretend they believed in you all along. And as I sat there reading the flood of news coverage about the brilliant and mysterious Sarah Wilson, I couldn't help but think that sometimes the best revenge isn't telling people how successful you are. On a Monday. Family meeting Sunday at noon. Important news about Grandma's estate. Everyone must attend. I was in my office at Sterling Consulting, reviewing a client's portfolio restructuring when my phone buzzed again. This time my sister Melissa. "Did you get Dad's text? This is finally happening. We're going to be rich." I stared at both messages, a familiar knot forming in my stomach. My grandmother had passed away 6 months ago at 93. The funeral had been elaborate. Full Catholic Mass, reception at the country club, enough flowers to fill a greenhouse. Dad had handled everything, repeatedly mentioning how expensive it all was. I'd offered to help with costs. He'd waved me off. "Don't worry, Natalie. There's plenty of money." Mom was very comfortable. That was February. It was now August, and apparently the estate was finally settled. My office phone rang. Unknown number but local area code. Natalie Chin. "Miss Chin? This is Richard Morrison from Morrison Caldwell and Associates. I'm the trustee executor for the estate of Catherine Chin. Do you have a moment to speak privately?" My grandmother's trust attorney. The knot in my stomach tightened. "Of course. Let me close my door." "I apologize for the delay in contacting you," Richard said. "The estate settlement took longer than anticipated due to some complications. I wanted to reach out before your father convenes any family meetings." "What complications? Perhaps it's better if we meet in person. Are you available this afternoon? Say 3 p.m. I'll be there." Morrison, Caldwell and Associates occupied the top floor of the Wells building downtown. Old money, old establishment, the kind of law firm that had handled wealthy families' affairs for generations. Richard Morrison was exactly what I expected. Silver hair, bespoke suit, an office that screamed quiet competence. He stood when I entered, shaking my hand with genuine warmth. "Miss Chin, thank you for coming on such short notice." He opened a thick folder on his desk. "Let me start by saying your grandmother was an extraordinary woman. Sharp as a tack right to the end. She worked with our firm for 42 years. She was always very organized," I agreed. "Indeed. Which brings me to why I called you." He slid a document across the desk. "This is the Catherine Chin Irrevocable Trust, established in 1995 and amended multiple times. The final amendment was made 8 months before her death." I scanned the document. Legal language, dense paragraphs, multiple schedules attached. "The trust assets total approximately $8.7 million, Richard continued. "Your grandmother accumulated considerable wealth through shrewd investing and frugal living." $8.7 million. My mind reeled. Grandma had lived in a modest house, drove a 15-year-old Buick clipped coupons. I'd had no idea. "Your father," Richard said carefully, "has been under the impression that he is the primary beneficiary of this trust. He's been in contact with our office multiple times over the past 6 months, inquiring about distributions, asking about access to funds. And he's not the primary beneficiary. You are." The office seemed to tilt slightly. "I'm sorry, what?" Richard turned the document to a flagged page. "Per the final amendment executed last October, you, Natalie Marie Chin, are designated as the sole primary beneficiary of the trust. 100% of assets transfer to you." I read the words 3 times. They didn't change. "Your father, your sister, and your uncle are listed as contingent beneficiaries only. Since you didn't predecease your grandmother, they inherit nothing from the trust itself." "Nothing?" "There are small specific bequests outside the trust. Your father receives your grandmother's car and $25,000. Your sister receives jewelry valued at approximately $8,000. Your uncle receives the house and $25,000. But the liquid assets, the investment accounts, the cash, the portfolio, all of that goes to you. My hands were shaking. Why? Richard pulled out another document. A letter in my grandmother's handwriting. She left this for you. I took the letter with trembling fingers. My dearest Natalie, if you're reading this, I've passed on and Richard has told you about the trust. I imagine you're shocked. Let me explain. I made you the primary beneficiary because you're the only one in this family who doesn't need the money. You worked your way through college. You built your career through merit. You live within your means. You've never asked me for a penny. Your father and sister have been asking me for money for years. Loans they never repaid. Investments in failed ventures. Emergencies that were really luxury purchases. I gave them money because they're family. But I watched them waste every dollar. They think I'm senile. They don't notice when they talk about my money like it's already theirs. Your sister once told her friend, right in front of me, that she was waiting for the old lady to finally die so we can access the real money. I heard that. I heard a lot of things they thought I was too old to understand. So I changed my will. I put everything in trust for you because I know you'll use it wisely. Your father will be angry. He's been planning how to spend his inheritance for a decade. Let him be angry. You owe him nothing. You were the grandchild who visited because you wanted to, not because you wanted something. Thank you for that, sweetheart. All my love, Grandma. I read it twice, tears blurring the words. She loved you very much, Richard said quietly. The trust is ironclad. Your father has no legal recourse to contest it. He doesn't know, I said. He thinks he's inheriting. Which is why I wanted to brief you first. Natalie, I need to ask, does your family have access to any of your financial information? Bank accounts, credit cards? The question seemed random. No. Why? Richard pulled out another file. Because 3 weeks ago your father attempted to open a line of credit using the trust as collateral. He claimed to be the trustee and attempted to authorize a $500,000 advance against the estate. My blood ran cold. He tried to borrow against Grandma's money? He did. The bank contacted us for verification and we informed them he had no authority. They denied the application. But Natalie, he's been making financial commitments based on money he thinks is coming. What kind of commitments? He put a deposit on a beach house in Florida. $200,000 financed with a bridge loan he expects to pay off with his inheritance. He also ordered a boat, $180,000, also financed. And your sister leased a Mercedes last month. I closed my eyes. They've already spent the money. They've committed to spending it, yes. Which means when they discover the truth, there will be significant financial crisis on top of emotional reaction. When are you planning to tell them? I'm not, Richard said. You are. This is your inheritance. Your grandmother wanted you to control how and when this information is shared. Sunday arrived too quickly. I sat in my car outside my parents' house for 15 minutes, gathering courage. Through the window I could see movement inside. Dad's booming laugh. Melissa's high-pitched excitement. My aunt and uncle, cousins I barely knew, all gathered for the big announcement. I walked in to find champagne already flowing. Real champagne, expensive bottles. Natalie. Finally. Dad grabbed me in a hug that smelled of cologne and alcohol. Today's a celebration. The living room was full. Mom, Melissa, Uncle Tom, Aunt Carol, 3 cousins. Everyone dressed nicely, anticipating good news. Now that everyone's here, Dad announced, standing in front of the fireplace, I want to share wonderful news. Mom's estate has finally been settled and as I expected, she left us very comfortable. How much? Melissa asked eagerly. The attorney said approximately $8.7 million in liquid assets, plus the house and personal property. Gasps around the room. My cousin Sarah actually squealed. $8 million, Uncle Tom repeated. Split how many ways? 3 primary beneficiaries, Dad said confidently. Myself, Natalie, and Tom. So roughly $2.9 million each. Of course, there are some specific bequests. Melissa gets Mom's jewelry. But the bulk is split 3 ways. He looked at me. Natalie, I know you'll want to be smart about this. We should meet with a financial advisor. Dad, I interrupted. That's not correct. He blinked. What's not correct? The distribution. The beneficiaries. None of that is correct. Natalie, I've spoken with the attorney multiple times. When did you last speak with Richard Morrison? Richard? I haven't spoken to him directly. I've been communicating with the paralegal. She didn't tell you the actual distribution. Or more likely, you assumed and she didn't correct you. The room went silent. Melissa set down her champagne. Nat, what are you talking about? I pulled out the trust documents. Grandma established an irrevocable trust in 1995. She amended it multiple times, most recently 8 months before her death. I met with Richard Morrison on Monday. I'm the sole primary beneficiary. Dad's face turned red. You're one of 3 primary beneficiaries. No, Dad. I'm the only one. The trust leaves 100% of the liquid assets to me. $8.7 million. All of it. The silence was absolute. Melissa laughed nervously. That's insane. Grandma wouldn't cut out her own son. She didn't cut him out. He gets the car and $25,000. Uncle Tom gets the house and $25,000. Melissa, you get her jewelry. But the money, all of it, comes to me. That's impossible. Dad's voice rose. She wouldn't do that. We had conversations. She promised nothing, I said quietly. You assumed. Uncle Tom found his voice. We'll contest it. That trust was made when Mom was elderly, probably not of sound mind. She was completely sound, I said. Richard has medical documentation confirming her mental competence at every amendment. The trust is ironclad. Dad grabbed the documents from my hands, scanning desperately. His face went from red to pale. This can't be right, he whispered. The beach house. I put down $200,000. The bridge loan. I have to pay it back within 60 days or you lose the deposit and still owe the loan, I finished. Yes. Richard told me you've been making financial commitments based on money you don't have. Melissa stood abruptly. The Mercedes. I just leased. Oh my God. I can't afford the payments on my salary. You thought you were about to be rich, I said. So you spent money you didn't have yet. This is your fault. Dad pointed at me, his hand shaking. You poisoned her against us. You manipulated her. I visited her, I said calmly. I spent time with her because I loved her. Not because I wanted her money. Bullshit. Melissa's voice was shrill. You were playing the long game. Waiting for her to die so you could take everything. I pulled out Grandma's letter. She left this explaining exactly why she made this decision. I don't want to hear her excuses. Dad shouted. She didn't betray you, I said. She just stopped enabling you. Uncle Tom stepped forward. Natalie, be reasonable. That's a lot of money for one person. Surely you can share. Share what? Money I didn't earn? That you deserve a portion because you're related to her. Yes. Melissa cried. We're family. Family shares. Family respects each other, I countered. Family doesn't talk about Grandma like she's a bank account with a pulse. He heard you say that, Melissa. 2 years ago at Christmas. You told your friend you were waiting for the old lady to finally die. She heard you. Melissa's face went white. I didn't, that was. You meant it. And she knew it. That's why she changed the trust. Dad sank into a chair, face in his hands. What am I supposed to do? The beach house, the boat, the bridge loan. I'm financially ruined. You're financially overextended, I corrected. Because you spent money you didn't have. That's not my problem. Not your problem. I'm your father. You let yourself lose everything the moment you counted money that wasn't yours. Mom spoke up quietly. Natalie, honey. Your father made mistakes, but he's still your father. Surely you can share some of the money. He needs to face the consequences of his choices, I said. This money is mine to manage as I see fit. And I'm not bailing out people who've been planning my grandmother's funeral like it was a lottery win. You cold-hearted bitch, Melissa spat. I hope that money makes you happy because you'll have no one. We're done. This family is done. Good, I said simply. Because this stopped feeling like family a long time ago. I walked to the door. For what it's worth, Grandma left instructions. Dad gets $25,000 in the car. Melissa, the jewelry is worth about $8,000. Uncle Tom, the house is fully paid off. That's it. Uncle Tom asked. $25,000 from an $8.7 million estate? That's what Grandma decided you deserved, I said. I left them there, their champagne going flat, their celebration turned to ashes. 2 weeks later, Dad showed up at my office. Security called up. Miss Chin? There's a Richard Chin in the lobby. He doesn't have an appointment. He says it's an emergency. I sighed. Send him up. Dad looked terrible. Unshaven, rumpled suit, exhausted. Thank you for seeing me, he said. You threatened to make a scene. That's not earning goodwill. I'm desperate. He sank into the chair. The bridge loan is due in 2 weeks. If I can't pay, I lose the deposit and still owe $200,000. The bank is threatening foreclosure. Your mother and I could be homeless. You own your house outright. How are they foreclosing? His face flushed. I took out a home equity loan to cover the boat deposit. I thought I'd pay it off with the inheritance. How much do you owe? $320,000. I stared at him. You've been retired 3 years. You have no income except Social Security. How did any bank approve that? I may have exaggerated our financial situation. You committed fraud. Please. Tears welled in his eyes. I'm begging you. Just enough to cover the loans. I'll pay you back, I'll sell the house, whatever you want. I thought about Grandma's letter. About her watching them treat her like a bank account for years. No, I said. No. I'm not giving you money to bail you out. Grandma left you $25,000. Use that. $25,000 doesn't even make a dent. Then sell the car she left you. Declare bankruptcy if you have to. But I'm not funding your mistakes. Dad's face hardened. Fine. Don't help. But don't expect to be part of this family anymore. You chose money over us. I chose to honor Grandma's wishes, I said. You chose to spend money that wasn't yours. We both made our choices. He left without another word. 3 months later, Dad declared bankruptcy and lost his home. He and Mom moved into a small apartment. Melissa defaulted on the Mercedes lease and got her first full-time job in 5 years because she had no choice. Uncle Tom sold Grandma's house and retired in Arizona. And I invested the $8.7 million exactly as Grandma would have wanted. I also established a scholarship fund in her name for first-generation college students. $100,000 annually. The family stopped speaking to me entirely. No calls, no texts, no holiday invitations. But I received a letter from a scholarship recipient, an 18-year-old girl named Maria, first in her family to attend college. She thanked me for making her education possible. I framed that letter and hung it in my office. Grandma had been right. The money was better spent building something beautiful than bailing out people who refused to build anything for themselves. Grandma's money is for all of us, Dad had announced. He was wrong. It was for me. Because I was the only one who'd earned it by loving her instead of her money.